me 2 seconds.
How many people are joining?
We're not sure because it's going to be live. So yeah, I think we can start off right now. Perfect. Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Yuna, and I'm a vice president of the UCLKS this year. And this is the final day of the event. Thank you for joining us until the last day. And I can assure you it's the last but not the least. Before the start, I'd like to inform this is a live streaming event, and every content here will be recorded and will remain on the channel. So to briefly introduce our event, Korean Identity Series is launched in aspiration to raise awareness of the opportunities that students and others have by listening to many Korean professionals who pursued their career in the UK. Bridging this gap between students and professionals is one of our core objectives, and our Identity Speaker Series was founded upon this initiative. So please, for everyone watching this right now, feel free to ask any question throughout the interview on the live chat below and take as much advantage as possible today. Now, I'd like to introduce our speaker, Connie. She was born in Seoul and grew up in Washington, D.C. and Seattle. After graduating from Yonsei University, she went on to work in investment banking with various roles at Credit Suisse and HSBC. She had her passion for business and love of contemporary jewelry. And immediately after graduating from the MBA program at London Business School in 2011, she founded her luxury jewelry brand, Astrid and Mir. I'm sure some of you might know, which started as just an idea in her little flat in Notting Hill, is now become a global jewelry brand, quickly building a cult status among celebrities, influencers. Now, I'd like to introduce our female entrepreneur of the day. Hi, Connie.
Hi, I'm good. How are you? What a lovely introduction, Yuna. And you did your research.
Yes, of course. Yeah, but I mean, I introduced you briefly, but can you tell us more about your personal journey?
Yeah, of course. I think you've done a really good job introducing me. But I mean, as you said, I was born in Korea, but I moved to the US when I was 5, and then since then moved back and forth between the two countries because of my dad's job. And then I decided to go to Yonsei University, graduated, and at that time I had no idea what I wanted to do. And it seemed like a lot of smart kids were going into investment banking or consulting. So I just went into investment banking because they were looking for people that could speak English and Korean. So I think that's how I got the job. And then I started working in the Korea office and then moved over to Hong Kong. So I lived in Hong Kong for 2.5 years before I quit. And then I moved to London to attend London Business School. During that time, I did a short stint with LVMH brand. So I consulted for Moet Hennessy as well as Thomas Fink in their marketing strategies, like randomly. And that's how I guess I got a taste of luxury goods and fashion. And then after I graduated, I didn't want to go back to the corporate world. So I started Astronomy as a project, as you mentioned, in my tiny flat in Notting Hill. And I mean, here I am. And then I met my husband shortly after, and we got married. We had kids. So we've got a 2.5-year-old and 3.5-year-old. So yeah, here I am still in London.
Right, that's so sweet. I mean, my first question when I was preparing is something very simple, but I think it's the question that could make us really reflect on how we felt about our identity of sorts, which is where did you feel the most at home or at home whenever you were moving from one country to the other? Yeah, where did you feel like, because when I was moving across different countries, I always told my friends like, oh, I have like 3 different homes, 1 in Korea, 2 in London, because I always moved around. Did you have any sort of like identity of sorts where your home was?
Yeah. I guess I always felt like I was Korean, so I always felt like Korea was home. But then, at the same time, wherever I was, I always tried to fit in. Like that was what consumed a lot of my energy. Like as a lot of people can probably relate, as a third culture kid, like I always tried to fit in into the American culture. But then like when I went back to Korea, I tried to be like super Korean. Yeah, I think that's how it was. I never felt like I fit in 100%, but then like I always tried to fit in. But at the same time, Korea was always home.
Okay. I know. I think that really builds up our identity of sorts. But then, was there any difficulty, trying to fit into different cultures all the time? And
I mean, yeah.
yeah, and also you not only moved a country from country, but then you also changed your job completely as well. And did that have any effect? Did you had any trouble trying to fit into different environment so often? Not as often, but
Yeah, I guess because I was so used to it since the age of 5, I just have that adaptability muscle. So I never felt like it was difficult. The most difficult period was I started high school in Korea and then moved to the US when I was a junior in high school. And I think by that time it was a bit more difficult to fit in because there were friendship groups already and everything. So that was probably difficult, but I didn't like particularly feel like it was difficult. And the transition like between the countries when I was working or like jobs, yeah, I don't think I felt like it was difficult, just because like I had that muscle.
right. That's very good. I guess as we move, I guess we build our own skills as well.
Yeah.
And I mean, that was a very brief background about from state to Korea, and now going straight into working as part of the training at HSBC in investment banking and Credit Suisse, and about your training experience with the jewelry brand. What would you say was your biggest encouragement, I guess, to pursue something of your own, to be interested in business?
Biggest encouragement, biggest inspiration, you mean? I always wanted to start my own business. Even like when I was a little kid, I was always interested in business, like just hearing about what goes on behind the scenes. And I think when I was in investment banking, I was lucky enough to, at that time, there was a boom in Chinese tech IPOs. So I worked on a lot of those deals. So I looked at like business models of different tech startups. And I think that sort of helped in building confidence, and also like being able to, as a junior I think investment banking is unique in that when you're 23, 24, you have direct access to the CFOs and CEOs and you can chat to them and you feel like they're your friends. So I think I've kind of built that confidence. And then like after I graduated from my MBA, I didn't have a job that I was tied to. So I think it kind of made it easier to just start my business as a project, just thinking, oh, if it doesn't work out, I'll just go back to a real job.
Wow.
Like, yeah.
I really love that you started it as a project, because people might think that starting your own business, entrepreneurship, is like something you have to be really prepared to and study about. But I think that's a very good mindset to really get something going, I guess. And I'm sure everyone is also curious about the Australia Mew, and especially for those who already knows the brand. And just to mention here, for those who has not yet discovered the brand, please go and check the website out. It is brilliant. Yeah. And now I'd like to ask, what was the story behind the name Australia Mew, and where did the initial idea start?
Yeah. So I'll answer your second question first. So, I mean, growing up, my dad, aside from the fact that we traveled back and forth, my dad used to travel a lot for work. So he would always bring back jewelry and baubles for my mom. So jewelry was always a huge part of my mom's identity and like what I grew up with. And whenever we used to travel, my mom used to love going to markets and just shifting through jewelry, and I did the same. And like jewelry was synonymous to travels and memories. But when I was settled in a city and trying to find jewelry, it was so hard to find that sentimental element. If you went into a jewelry store, like for instance, like I don't know, like a Pandora or a Swarovski, everything was very stale, under the glass. I felt like that coolness factor was missing. So I wanted to create a brand that's cool, like a fashion brand. and fashionable, well-designed, well-made, that resonated with I guess at that time I was the target audience. I'm much older now, but our target audience. And that's how I started Astrid and Miu. And the name came from, so I wanted two girls' names, and two girls' names that are Western and Eastern, to kind of embody my background. So Astrid is a Swedish name and Miu is a Japanese name. And they have a background story behind them. So Astrid, so this is something that we kind of look at internally with the team. Whenever we create collections or campaigns, we always have either Astrid or Miu in mind. So Astrid is an introverted artist who lives in Camden with her famous musician boyfriend, and she loves to go to galleries, and she likes indie brands, and she loves to go to coffee shops and all these things. So you can probably imagine what kind of character this is. Mm-hmm. And Miu is an extroverted international. She's like half Japanese, half English. She works in PR, and she's single. She's always partying, and she lives in a loft in Shoreditch on her own. So it's two, kind of contradictory girls, but girls who both live in London, and girls who are friends. So these are, I guess these kind of resonate our target audience. So that's how the name came about.
That was extraordinary, I think. That was beautiful. I think I love how much detail you have on these characters, about someone has a boyfriend, she has her specific, I don't know, taste in coffee or whatever.
Oh yeah. It goes down like it goes down to even more detail if you read the script. We have like so much detail into all these characters. They have a full life story.
Oh wow. Does the character or their life change at all throughout as the Astrid and Miu, the brand itself, grows? Maybe.
Oh, that's a really good question. Yeah, maybe we should incorporate that. But another thing we have is every single store that we open. So now we have 6 physical outlets. They also have a character each. So they're all friends of Astrid and Miu, but they have different stories. They're from different backgrounds, different ethnicities, different sexual orientation, and that's how we embody that diversity element within Astrid and Miu.
Wow, I think that was one of the most creative brand behind story of that I've ever heard. I think it was really interesting. And from the website, obviously I stalked Astrid and Miu for a bit. I've seen that one of the main brand value is affordability, as you explained, and accessibility to not just closed in a glass window. Other than being so exquisitely good in itself as a brand, as a jewelry, I've seen that Astrid and Miu offers like various in-store services like tattoo, piercings, and welding. I think that was really creative. Yeah, what was your inspiration here? And whilst providing such services and quality, how do you keep and maintain the affordability of the brand?
Yeah, I mean, for the first question, the inspiration behind the services was, it just happened organically. We became very well known for our earrings and ear stacks. So like we had so many customers asking for piercing. So we decided to take the plunge and started piercing as one-off piercing parties, mainly for influencers and our loyal customers. And they just got fully booked every time we did it. So we started rolling it out in just one store 2 days a week. And then they always got fully booked and people were complaining. And then 3 days. And then we did it every single day in one particular store. And they were always fully booked. So we started incorporating that element to all of our stores because people loved it. There was demand for it, but also like people were so much more engaged with their products once they got that piercing because they were, spending time with their piercers, chatting. It's kind of like being in a hair salon, right? When you're getting a service, you chat to that person, whoever is like giving you the service. And then tattoo kind of extended because a lot of piercers also work in tattoo parlors. So they had friends that were tattoo artists that were interested and were like, oh, let's test it out. And they became really popular. So we developed our own designs as well. So we have like birth flowers, zodiacs, which are super popular. So that's how that grew. And like welding was also a very natural extension. I actually found it's actually not an original idea. I have to admit, I went to Paris and I I went to Paris and Le Bon Marché, and there was a brand that was doing this. So I got that service, and I was like, oh my god, we need to do this because this is so cool. So I went back like after that weekend. I told the team about it, and then I think we launched it after like 1 or 2 months. We did quick research and just did it. We hired a couple of jewelers, so they're professional jewelers that weld the bracelet onto your wrist. So it's like really cool.
Right.
And then
that's
yeah,
cool.
and then your I guess second question on maintaining affordability. I think well, I think as the company scales, it's even easier to maintain affordability because you achieve, I'm sure a lot of you are economic students as well, but you achieve economies of scale. So you have a lot of leverage with the factories and suppliers. And we also have a really good professional team. When I first started, I used to do everything. I used to just sketch and send it to the suppliers. And like I used to do quality control, like i.e. just wear it for extended period of time. But we have, professionals that are experts in every single segment of the supply chain. So we have product developers, but we also have supply chain manager. We also have a quality control manager. So I think having a good team and having scale allows us to achieve that affordability.
Wow. I think people are very important in terms of growing anything, doing anything, I guess, and our journey. So I was actually going to ask about the marketing strategy and how you have reached the global audiences. But then actually, because since we just mentioned about the team and networking, I'm sure most of our audiences feel the same importance of networking, even as a student. But as a person who, you already kind of mentioned that you did everything by yourself. What was like the most difficult part of working alone at the beginning, you'd say?
I guess all entrepreneurs experience this, but just I guess loneliness, because no one's really going through the same process. And I think now entrepreneurship or startups is super popular, and there's probably an ecosystem or community of entrepreneurs. But back then, this was like 10 years ago, that it wasn't so popular. It was there were a lot of tech startups, but there were certainly not a lot of brand startups. So just not having a kindred spirit probably was difficult, and just trying to figure everything out on my own also, I guess, was difficult.
I guess, yeah, it must have given you a lot of, I don't know, feeling of doubt, maybe.
Yeah, I guess so. I generally don't have a lot of self-doubt. I mean, of course, like obviously when I was younger, I had so much self-doubt, and then like, as you become older and you become an ajumma, you grow a thick skin.
Brilliant. I think, I guess that's the strength that you have kind of built up throughout, because you had those experiences. But you kind of mentioned about you have a brilliant team now, but how did the team of Astrid and Mew started at the beginning?
So it was so in the very beginning, when it was concept stage, I actually had a friend from my business school. So she worked with me for about 3 months, and then she decided to get a proper job. So I was left alone for about, I guess, like 9 months or so. And then I hired my first employee, and she's now our head of marketing and e-commerce. Yeah, so that's how the team. So she was the only employee for quite a bit of time, for like a year or so, until I hired the next one. And now I've got a team of 90 people, split between the office and retail. Yeah, so it was like just me for a really long time, and then just Sarah, who's our head of marketing and e-commerce, for a really long time, and then it just grew exponentially after.
There are many ways to have build your team, like how you met Sarah, and was there any memorable moments or people you might specifically remember? It could be Sarah, it could be anyone else, that you might be encountered in a very interesting way.
Yeah, I mean, Sarah, I think is the probably the most memorable
Mm.
because she's my first employee and we worked together like alone for such a long time. So she used to work for another jewelry startup, and she was like, it was her first job out of university. She was only 23 or 24 at that time. And she was basically, we share the same PR agency. So there is a thing called PR press day where the PR agent invites all of the brands that they represent. They set up a showroom and you have representation there, either the founder of the brand or like the PR manager or head of PR.
Wow.
And she was representing that brand and we were just casual chatting. And I thought to myself, she's the smartest 23-year-old I've ever met. And I knew that I needed someone, so we kept in touch as friends. And when I decided that I needed someone, I just asked her whether she wanted to join me, and she joined me, which and then it's history.
Brilliant. I think, yeah, I think networking could happen at any moment, really. I think from another stalking from my website, your brand value is affordability, sustainability, and other than these values, I've seen a great support for female entrepreneurship like yourself, and yeah, that great support for the female leaderships in general. So did that help you with any kinds of further growth to the Astrid and Mew in terms of networking, maybe?
In terms of, can you repeat
Networking,
that?
maybe.
Not in particular. I didn't do it intentionally to gain anything. It was just to like genuinely help smaller businesses. I don't think our sales necessarily grew through it, but it's just really rewarding, and it's it really represents our values, which resonates with our community and our customers, which is always a core part of the brand. And yeah, it's just like nice to see smaller brands flourish. And in a practical sense, there was a really cool candle brand that I mentored, and we started stocking that candle during Christmas period on our website, which did really well. So just discovering new brands, I guess, is a added benefit to all of this as well.
I think that's brilliant. Yeah, I think seeing various brands with like great values, I think always very interesting to the customers like myself as a customer. I think it's very good to see brands with values. And going back to another question, I am curious about your marketing strategies that allowed the Astrid Mew's global reach. What would you say is your major marketing strategies or skills maybe that allowed your first ever business to successfully reach its global audiences?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. I think it's just really understanding the customer and building a really dedicated community rather than just trying to sell. So like rather than taking a shortcut approach, a lot of brands do, a lot of like online and direct to consumer brands try to get short-term sales through just promotions or discounts. But I think just instilling that real sense of purpose and value into the brand is key to our brand messaging and marketing. And also like, tactically speaking, we do a lot of like social media ads. Like we do ads on Instagram, spend a lot of money, and we spend a lot of money on influencers as well. So I guess tactically speaking, social media is a huge part, but if you go deeper into that, just understanding our customers' psychology and really understanding what they want and what they want to hear from us. And I think like with the younger audiences, millennials, but also like Gen Zs, like all of you guys, like that segment of customers really want to see that sense of purpose from brands and really want to see that we mean something rather than selling jewelry.
So in terms of your global reaches, how many countries are you mainly promoting the brand?
Just I mean, like we're only putting marketing efforts into the UK, but we do, I think we have customers from like more than 100 different countries, just like from overflow of the marketing.
Okay, so you're only promoting from UK, but it's just automatically spreading.
Yeah. We're not making any efforts in other countries. We are starting to. We have plans to do international outreach, but I mean, we haven't done it so far.
I think that leads perfectly well to my next question of, do you have any kind of plans or vision for Astrid and Mew to its
Yeah,
further next step?
yeah,
Whether it is,
absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah,
whether it is
absolutely.
international reach or anything else?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've kind of built a good cult status in the UK, but I definitely want to go global, and that's on the cards this year. So we're planning for the US and Germany specifically, but I think there's no reason why we wouldn't be able to go elsewhere. Like we could go back to Korea, um, like all of Europe, Canada, Australia. So like world domination is on the cards, and also like uh, more steps towards sustainability is definitely a huge focus this year for me.
Yeah, I think sustainability is a great point as well, as a great value that many countries or many brands should pursue. I think, yeah. So I think this is going to be quite a big question. So, I mean, we kind of briefly within this 30-minute have viewed your long journey in such a short time, but reflecting upon your story yourself, um, with us, out of all your personal and professional, from university to investment banking and living in state to Korea and London, and also MBA at the LBS, and lastly, and but not the least, Australia Mu. What do you think were the most important lessons you have learned that really made your story unique? Because I think you have a very broad identity as a person, because yeah, you have so many changes in your life, not in just in job, but also in country and culture, and also meeting different people. So what do you think that is that made you unique?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question,
Yeah.
and a very deep, very deep
I
question.
mean, it could be
Yeah,
purely an experience, but it could also be
yeah,
a specific character or personality you
yeah,
have.
yeah, yeah,
It could be
yeah,
multiple things, I
yeah,
guess.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think because I have such broad experiences in different cultures, and like I don't like really define myself or categorize myself, and I think that's a strength. I can be really authentic to who I am. I mean, which took a long time to get to. Obviously, like I've struggled with my identity growing up, like between US and America, like, and also like in investment banking, there were gender stereotypes, like obviously, and I had to fight that. Like I was the only female banker, and people, especially in Korea, like I was also very young, so people thought I was secretary or receptionist. So like I had to
Oh,
fight all of
wow.
that. But I think like experiencing all of those things, I kind of like my strength is defying all that stereotypes, and I don't really think of myself as like a female or like Korean or like a multicultural. I just identify myself as myself, and this is who I am, and I've accepted the fact that I'm very different. But I think it also makes me very authentic, and it also helps in being a leader, because I can be very inclusive and accepting to like different opinions and like differences, and become a more inclusive leader. Yeah.
Wow. I think that was a perfect answer, I think. Yeah, I think if I dare to sum up your answer, I think it was basically not giving a monkey about any kind of culture or an environment that you were in, I guess, to not
Yeah,
be
yeah,
in that common stream of community, I guess. I
yeah,
think,
yeah,
yeah, that was
yeah.
brilliant.
I mean, it might just be a function of age or me being an ajumma. I don't know.
I think that was brilliant. So I mean, we kind of talked about your personality throughout as well, that your strength, that you didn't really had any kind of doubt or fear as a person, as you define yourself or tell yourself. So I think we're now going to get into the Q&A. But then before we do, can you tell us your final advice for the audience, perhaps those who are interested in entrepreneurships, opening their business,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
changing jobs, or about moving to another country, perhaps?
yeah, of course. I think I mean, now reflecting back, university years were probably the most enjoyable and fun years for me. So like just enjoy as much as you can. Don't worry too much. Things will fall into place. You'll always get a job, like no matter what. So just make sure that you have a lot of fun, but also like, build yourself up a bit. Like surround yourself around positive people, uh, so that you don't grow that self-doubt, and be a positive force for other people. And like dream big. Dreaming is free.
Thank you so much. I think that was, again, exquisite. So we have some questions from the live chat. And first one is from Minzy, and she says, "Hey Connie, are you considering new e-commerce opportunities such as shoppable social, for example, payments made on Facebook and Instagram shops directly? What do you think of the emergence of the e-commerce landscape?"
Yeah, we're definitely thinking. So we have that shoppable function on Instagram, and I think all of these developments are amazing because it just removes that friction between the customer and us. Very good question.
Perfect. And another question was, what would be the difference between accessory markets in Korea and UK?
Oh, interesting. The accessories market, as in jewelry market. I actually don't know the Korean market very well, so I can't really answer that. I mean, I would say like in Korea, there's so many more choices, like affordability choices. And I guess like that's part of the reason why I got that inspiration, because it didn't exist in the UK. So I would say like the Korean market is probably more sophisticated and more competitive.
I think I personally have another question that is something to, I mean, I know that you never really tried or to define or restrict yourself to define of any identity, but I'm sure, I think there was a difference between working when you were working in investment banking as as you said, as a female amongst a great number of male professionals. What do you think is the biggest difference from that change of environment in working your own business and before? And
Oh,
what are the gender I don't know, ratio in Australia and Mu? Just
yeah. So the gender ratio is, I think we've got 95% female, and then 5% like not non-female. So like, transgender, like gay, and like males. So yeah, the proportion of female is very high at SRMU, and we're trying to diversify that. We're trying to like have a diversity target the other way around now.
oh wow.
Yeah, and then the main difference between working for a company and being an entrepreneur is that, like, was that the first question? So
Yeah,
I
the
think
change of industry, I guess.
yeah, the change, not necessarily industry, but I think the working environment. One thing I missed about investment banking was the camaraderie, because when I started as an analyst at Credit Suisse, we had a group of I think like 200 analysts that met and lived and studied together for 5 weeks across Europe and Asia. And I think that camaraderie is like being in school, like you have your community. So I guess that's something that I miss as an entrepreneur. We do have founder communities, but everyone's so busy and everyone has like such different challenges, so you never have that kind of like tight knit community. So that's the difference. But then again, like I can fulfill my dreams as an entrepreneur, and I can run the company as I wanted to. So that's another difference.
I think, yeah, I think it's always interesting to know the changes, because that's where people fear the most about changing jobs, changing, I don't know, the whole environment or of studying here or there. Yeah, I am just gonna try to check if there are any more questions on live, but I think there aren't any more, but we still have spare time. Yeah. Oh, there are another question. So Sumin says, "Hey Connie, thank you for sharing your inspiring story. How did you find the conversion from one career to another?" I think it was quite similar. It must be a difficult decision to make. Was there any decision-making process, perhaps?
Um, I don't think so. When I left investment banking, I knew that I wanted to switch careers. That's why I did my MBA, and I thought I wanted to be in fashion. I mean, like starting a business was a vague idea. So
Mhm.
I did a short stint at LVMH. I didn't like it. I didn't like the corporate environment. So I think it was pretty easy, and I started Astronomy as a project. I don't know whether I'd recommend like taking it so like casually. I don't know. Maybe that's why it worked. Maybe like there's a better way to do it. But I think like every step of the way, I didn't think too much of it.
Was there, I mean, this is just a follow question from me, but then was there any, what was like the biggest challenges that you faced when you were developing the Astronomy as you go?
What were the biggest challenges? I mean, there's so many challenges, but I think the biggest challenge is the team, having the right team, because I can't do everything, especially if we're going to grow the company. So just figuring out who to hire at what point, at like what kind of caliber, um, what kind of culture, and also like thinking about the existing team in mind, because you need to think about the dynamics with the existing team. So just building a team, I think, is the biggest challenge.
Another leading question to that is in terms, because I am actually currently working for one of the startup company and I am seeing the three co-founders, but then I think I'm just seeing them. It must be so challenging to lead the company because they are developing their own ideas as they go. And
Mm.
to lead the team, it must be quite difficult. What do you think was like the good or I don't know, efficient method in leading the team?
Good and efficient way of leading the team. I mean,
Leadership
I don't think,
skills, I
yeah,
guess.
yeah, I don't think there's one answer, but um, I normally try to set very clear directions. I mean, it's very difficult as a startup where you're also trying to figure out what the hell is going on and you don't even know what's going on. But I think it's like at least good to give some kind of direction and spell out the expectations for your team so they know what they're striving for. So they're not running like headless chickens, even if you are. And just like instilling confidence, I think, in them, and also like praising them. I really believe in like psychological safety
Mhm.
for my staff, and also positivity. So like always praising them as we go, but nudging them if I need to give them constructive feedback rather than just like blurting it out. Um, yeah, that's how I generally lead the team. But I don't know whether there's this like correct or wrong like
Yeah.
way to do this. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I guess that's why I didn't want to say good way, more of just your way of doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's from June, this is. He says, as the founder and CEO, how much control do you have over the company? I think this is quite big.
That very, very interesting question. But I mean, depends on what you mean by control, June.
I think
I
I
don't know
guess
what that means.
I think it must be like if you feel controlled over your plans of strategies in terms of
Yeah.
what you want to achieve, I guess that's kind of a control that you want to
Yeah.
have. You
Yeah. Yeah.
because you feel that you have that control. I mean, it could be just company growth in general, but it could be the
Yeah. Yeah.
leadership
Yeah,
of the
yeah,
team as
yeah.
well.
I guess like
Uh,
there's two different types of control, right? So one is like, do I control the destiny and future and strategy of the company? Yes. Do I control like every single bit of like what's going on? Do I control like the social media contents?
mhm.
No, not at all. They don't let me look at it. Like I'm banned from looking at it. So like in that sense, I have no control over like the day to day. Yeah.
So I guess it's very mixed.
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah. I have full control in one way, but no control like in another way.
guess it's a very big community as well. Okay. I'm trying to wait for more questions. Oh, there's another question from a YouTuber, Londoner Wife. He says, "Did you enjoy your time at London Business School?" I think, yeah,
Yeah.
it's very interesting as well.
Yeah, I did. I think I just love being a student. Not the studying academics bit, but just hanging out with friends and partying. So like, I would say I did say university was my best time, but I have to correct that. MBA was the best time because I had
Oh,
like I was more mature. I had a lot more money to spend, so
mm,
like we could go on expensive vacations and things like that. So I thought, yeah, I mean, well, like obviously like studying is interesting too, but yeah, I really enjoyed my MBA.
um, can you tell us a bit about the MBA course that, yeah, a bit more detail about the course itself? I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
some people might be curious.
Yeah, of course. I think the reason why I enjoyed the MBA was because, like at university I studied business as well, but like when you don't have any work experience, it's not real for you, right? It's nothing's tangible. Whereas like I already had experience and I knew what I was getting into. So everything was a bit more tangible. I knew what I could gain from it. And I mean, I didn't take advantage of like a lot of those. Like I probably opted out of a lot of the like important classes because I came from investment banking. So I took tests to opt myself out of accounting, opt myself out of corporate finance and all these things that people come to the MBA to learn. So I had a lot of free time to just think and reflect back. Um, but I think if you have, I think it's really good if you build a couple of experience in like a corporate or like consulting, and then do an MBA to build that foundation in like all dimensions of business. I think it's actually amazing, and I think it's just a fun experience to be around like-minded people. Yeah.
Do you think the MBA course definitely kind of helped you through starting Astrid and Mew? I mean, I guess it wasn't planned
Mm.
that you thought of Astrid and Mew first and then decided to do MBA, but how did it kind of build up?
I mean, to be very honest, like I don't think an MBA helps you in starting a business. If you want to start a business, I would um, you know, like build some work experience and then start a business. But for me, like, if it weren't for London Business School, I wouldn't have moved to London. So I guess that was the benefit because I had like no connections here, like no relevance to London. So in that sense, that helped me. But I think in terms of like curriculum or anything like, yeah, nothing about the MBA relates to startups. Now I think they do have a lot of curriculums around entrepreneurship because it's so like popular, like starting up is so popular. But I yeah, I'd be very skeptical on what they can teach from an academic point of view because entrepreneurship is so like far removed from academics. Like it's all about like the hustle and the grind and all of these things that you can't learn in a classroom.
Yeah, I think that's very true. I'm seeing the co-founder of the startup that I'm working to. They are working like 7 days a week. Yeah, late nights. They're actually living together, I think. I don't know if
Oh
I'm supposed to
wow.
say this, but in order to work more efficiently, yeah, I think they're living together for a
Yeah.
bit. Yeah. But also, I think it is interesting to talk about informal stuff of living in London, moving from obviously state to Korea. I mean, you had your family, but you came alone in London. How was living in London like? This is very
Yeah, I mean,
general.
yeah, I mean, I loved it, and I still love it. I loved it because when I came, it wasn't just me; it was the whole like LBS community. I made so many friends, and we were always traveling around Europe.
Mhm.
So it was super fun, and I lived in Notting Hill. Um,
Oh,
and
yes.
and yeah, I loved it, and still love it.
Yeah, I think I love Nottingham as well. I think it's beautiful. Um, June asks another question. Do you have an ultimate goal in mind for your life, or perhaps for Astrid and Mew? Or are
Yeah,
you
yeah.
taking things step by step?
Yeah, very good question. Yeah, I do have a plan. So I want to grow SJMU into a global brand, but I also have 10,000 other business ideas. So yeah, my ultimate goal is to have a portfolio of brands um, that I don't run, that other people run. And yeah, I manage an umbrella company. So that's my ultimate. And I also want to do more advisory work and support young entrepreneurs and do angel investing. Yeah, so those are the plans.
I think that's right. That's cool. Like supporting is advisory work and supporting. I think you'll be very good at it. Like you seem like
Thank
without a
you.
doubt, gonna go for it, very determined. There's another question by Sumin. She says, how did you choose or know that London was the place for your business? I guess you had a choice starting Astrid and Mew, because obviously States and London or
Yeah,
Korea.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't a deliberate choice. I just happened to be in London at that time, and I really wanted to live in London. So it was lifestyle first, and then the business
Oh wow.
second.
I think that's very interesting because I don't know, I might have expected something of because jewelry brand in London is this and this, and yeah, it could be that, but I think
Yeah. I
it's
mean,
something that's very simple.
that's an after story, right? Like it happened, London, that
Mhm.
happens to be a really good city to start a brand because there's a lot of premium attached to being a London-based brand. But first and foremost, I just wanted to live in London, and I also wanted to start a jewelry brand, and then they kind of merged together.
That's perfect. I guess life and work has to kind of they are highly connected, I guess.
Yeah,
There's another
absolutely. I think
question.
they all
Yeah.
need to be holistic. You can't
Mm,
just do one thing without the other.
very correct. Another question from RM. She says, when you first started the business, who did you look for advice or mentorship?
Yeah, that's a good question. I wish I had a mentor or like an advisory board, but I didn't. And that's something that yeah, and that's something that I missed and I wanted to provide to the young entrepreneurs when we launched the mentorship program at Escrow New.
Oh, I didn't know that you launched the mentorship program.
Yeah. So I launched the mentorship program last year during the
Mhm.
pandemic because I wanted to just support young businesses. So I think I've mentored 9 businesses so far.
Wow. I think that's very sweet. Yeah, I don't know if there's not more questions. Just in case if people have more questions, I think I'd like to give more 10 minutes and to fill the time in. I'd like to just say that to the audiences, we have feedback form. Please do fill them up at the end of the event because we want to improve this event every year. And it'd be really nice to have some feedback. I think we will post the link at the end of the event. That's all I wanted to say. Yeah, maybe if there are, I I don't think there is more questions, but do you want to wrap up maybe by suggesting any advice at the end? I mean, you mentioned the advice, but in terms of, I think it would be really good to ask for your advice to student entrepreneurs, maybe for potential students who are looking into entrepreneurs, because for me as well, I recently got interested, but then I've been told a lot of times, and I have not seen as many students starting entrepreneurships that, as a student, you might want to take a step back. You might want to really study this and this before you get into the entrepreneurship. There's a lot of risk and obviously financials as well. To the younger entrepreneurs, what would you give as an advice?
Oh, geez. I don't know
Am I giving
actually.
too much responsibility?
I don't know. I think I don't think you need to study more to be an entrepreneur. I think like it really depends on the idea. If you have a really good idea, um, try to go for it. Um, take small risks at a time, but also like be mindful that you don't know what you don't know. So always seek out for more information, be humble,
Mm,
read, seek for advice, but also like, don't be too swayed by too many advices because people will always have something to say. So like stick to your guns, but stay humble. And also like always know that like you don't know what you don't know. So try to learn as much as possible, not through the classrooms, but through real life.
Thank you so much for today. I think it was really great to get to know you a bit more and about Astrid at Mew. Again, I'm saying this again, to the audience, please do check the website out. It's really cool. And if anyone is in London, I mean, I didn't had a chance to ever visit the store myself because now I'm in Korea, but I hope I can one day. Yeah, please make a visit and yeah, have a look at the website. It's really sweet. And thank you so much for your time today and your advice, your story, and everything. I'm sure you're busy as well. And thank you for joining us, for the audience as well. And yeah, please give us a feedback on the event. Thank you, Connie.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for being a great host,
Oh, no.
Have a
Thank
great
you.
day.
Have a great day. Bye.
Bye.